Good evening. Today is Tuesday, March 25th, 2025. Update for Wednesday, 26th. All right, let's go. Well, let's keep these two in here. It's getting kind of interesting. They're still short setting up, but the length of the pullback, and in some cases, the depth, obviously, in individual issues, is creating actually fewer setups. So we'll get to that in just 1 second. CCL, a little bit of a move in our favor. In fact, let's just hop into that right now. There you can see turning right back down. Just kind of a little bit of a retrace in here. Looks like the downtrend obviously remains intact there. As far as official setups, let's stick with the JBL. Of course, and as usual, you want to wait for an entry there and elsewhere, of course, and also TPR. So far, just a little bit of a pullback here. It too looks poised to resume its downtrend. UAL caught my eye also. If you're looking for another stock as an alternative, this one has obviously imploded and then has begun to pull back. Looks like a trip down to the 200-day moving average at the least is in the cards there. Let's take a look at the overall market and let's drill down a little bit. First of all, S&P 500 better than the poke in the eye, I suppose, up a smidge. So far, just pulled back a little bit and just right above that 200-day moving average. Let's take a look at the NASDAQ Composite. Okay day there, up about 0.5%. So far, though, these markets, or these indices, I should say, are just kind of retracing back toward that 200. Let's take a look at the Resty. Resty actually turned back down, so that's certainly a bit of a bummer. Let's take a look at the VIX real quick, and it's a couple of interesting things here. VIX is still very oversold. Now, it did swing really quickly from overbought to oversold, and I did a little research earlier, and I really didn't glean anything from all that research, but it's still oversold nonetheless. I think oversold is still valid, even though you have a spike higher followed by the spike lower. So I think, based on this action, that we still have some downside left in the market while the situation resolves itself. It's, as you know, it's a kind of a mean reversion type of market, and now that the indices are actually swung back to a bit overbought, then the correction would be back to the downside. So we could have a possible downside in the indices left in them, and then the VIX would be a bounce back up to the moving average. Don't be a hero, though, other than possibly an intraday trade. I wouldn't rush out and take a position trade based on something like the VIX. Short-term trading, as you know, can be a little bumpy if you don't occasionally have that longer-term winner to help bail everything out to make it work longer term. Let's take a look at some areas in here. Let's start with the strongest. Gold up a little today. That's gold commodity. Gold stocks off their best levels, but still up nonetheless. Gold's a little wide and loose. It can often be wide and loose, but it seems like the stocks here have been kind of all over the place. So I'm not really seeing anything setting up lately, but you know, routine. One day at a time, we'll see how things shake out. Copper banging out new highs with a bit of vigor. That's copper, the commodity. Nothing popping up just yet in the scans, but we could start seeing some setups there fairly soon based on that action. Broker-dealer continues to rally, but so far it just looks like a pullback. And so far it looks like the downtrend remains intact, or this big picture transition. Software, same sort of action happening here too. The list goes on. And on medical devices, actually turned back down. You can see big thrust lower, followed by a bit of a retrace. Now, here's something that's kind of interesting. Now, it's all over the place, but defense actually did make it back to brand new highs. So we'll see how that shakes out and whether or not we can get some decent follow through, and if the charts can trade a little bit more cleanly. Transport's turning back down, outside day down there. Now, it was a gap open, so I don't know how you want to read that, but it did obviously form an outside day with a gap, of course. Take a look at the Jets. You can see turning back down. UAL looks like it's in trouble there. Now, one thing that I found interesting tonight is take a look at drugs. And this is one reason why you don't necessarily want to chase relative strength, except for something like gold, which could trade independently of the overall market. But sometimes the market eventually catches up to the stocks. So you can see major drugs got hit fairly hard in here, even though the market was actually overall up a little bit. Cloud computing, a little bit of a rally there. So it looks like it's in trouble. So that's a reoccurring pattern over and over again. As you can see, thrust followed by a little bit of a pullback. Semiconductors still remain below a mountain of overhead supply. I think that's pretty much it for tonight. Let's take a look at financials real quick. They continue to push back toward their old highs, but I wouldn't get too excited unless they can make it to new highs. I think that's it for tonight. Still looking fairly ugly out there, but I think the best action for now is to continue to keep an eye out for some shorts. Make sure you're waiting for entries. If the market keeps rallying like it is, we'll see fewer and fewer shorts. We might sit on our hands a little bit and then let things shake out. Possibly some golds, obviously, on a pullback. I think that's it. Everybody have a fantastic night. If you have any questions, you know the routine. Thank you so much.